Please remain standing if you're able to. We would now ask the brass quintet to please play the national anthem. Please be seated. And as the brass quintet departs, let's hear it, the round of applause for the Navy Brass Quintet. Thank you so much. It already feels like it's a little bit of a party here, even on a rainy afternoon. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to squash this great event. So thank you all for being here today, and for those that are watching us here virtually, thank you for joining us as we unveil a brand new exhibition at the Military Women's Memorial. My name is Phyllis Wilson, and I proudly serve as the president of the Military Women's Memorial. And I try to be as joint as possible, but I served for 37 years in the United States Army. I do try to be a little bit on the white side. I wore white pants for the Navy today. I can't imagine trying to keep an entire white uniform clean. I'm so glad that we don't do that in the Army. The Military Women's Memorial is the only national memorial that honors and tells the stories of the more than 3 million American women that have served, defended, and sometimes died in defense of this great nation, all the way back to the American Revolution. So on behalf of the Foundation's Board of Directors and staff, of whom we have many of them here today, it's a pleasure to welcome you here tonight for this special occasion as we launch this new and important exhibition entitled A Sea Change, commemorating 30 years of Navy women on combatant vessels. We're grateful that you braved the rain and the humidity to join us and are honored by our distinguished guests. There's so many of them. We had a cut line, and I'm sorry if you didn't make it, but I think you'll know why once we start listing who we do have on our list. The Honorable John H. Dalton, the 70th Secretary of the Navy. Sir, thank you for being here today. Vice Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, Admiral Christopher Grady and his wife, Chris Grady. Thank you. This doesn't happen often. The third on the list is Admiral Lisa Franchetti, the Chief of Naval Operations. Admiral Retired John Richardson, the 31st Chief of Naval Operations. So, thank you for being here. I'm just fangirling and fanguying so much. Admiral Retired Michelle Howard, the 38th Vice Chief of Naval Operations and first woman to be a 4-star in the United States Navy. So much history in this room, in this memorial. Miss Ann Gebhardt's Deputy Undersecretary of the Navy for Policy. Ma'am, thank you for being here. And I was so excited because I met the next woman at a Mystics basketball game just a month ago and invited her, and she said, I will be there. And sadly, we all get sick every once in a while, and so the superintendent of the Naval Academy, the 65th superintendent, first woman to be the SUP, Admiral Yvette Davids, will not be here with us tonight. She does send her regrets, and she is with us in spirit. Mike Stevens, the 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, is with us tonight, sir. Thank you for being here. And Ambassador Roxanne Cabral, Senior Vice President of the National Defense University. Ma'am, thank you also. We have so many flag and general officers here tonight, and so many senior enlisted. It's just breathtaking that you took the time to come here to be with us, and I'm so grateful that you did. We'd like to begin the evening with a very special shout out to the Navy women who served as a part of the actual sea change in the early 90s. The first to receive orders and serve on the Eisenhower and other combatant ships. This is your exhibit. It's your evening. I want to do one special shout out. This is not in my script, but a friend of mine that we enjoyed a cruise together earlier this year, the first woman to take command of any vessel in the United States Navy, Commander Darlene Iskra. Ma'am, stand up. While all of you are special guests, I do want to take the opportunity to acknowledge and welcome retired Navy Reserve Captain Dudley Sadler, the husband of retired Navy Captain Georgia Sadler. Georgia passed away almost 2 years ago, but I am confident she would have been sitting in the front row here tonight, just waiting for this exhibit to open. Georgia was a former Foundation Board member, and she was the first woman instructor at the Naval Academy. And significant to this evening, she was an early architect of the Navy's Women on Ships program, working on the enlisted side of the program. Working the officer side was Lori Manning. We're delighted to have retired Navy Captain Lori Manning with us tonight as well. Both Georgia and Lori went on to continue making a difference for women after retiring by bringing their expertise to the Women's Research and Education Institute. Captain Dudley Sadler and Captain Lori Manning, both of you please stand so we can acknowledge you. For all of you, and most of you, you've already seen part of the exhibit because we just couldn't wait, and while we had it slightly barricaded off for VIPs, every one of you here tonight is a VIP. And when you told me, I served with Admiral Howard, can I go see her? Of course you can. Are you sure? I'm not. Of course you can. So we've had some fun and partied already. This exhibit, A Sea Change, Navy Women on Combatant Ships, is a notable exhibition that examines the evolution of women's service in the Navy from World War I, when women did not even have the right to vote, to today's Navy, where the most senior position in the Navy, the Chief of Naval Operations, is occupied by a woman. In particular, the exhibit shines a light on how personnel requirements, legislation, and women's desire to serve and their proven capabilities came together to bring about monumental change to the Navy, women serving aboard combatant ships. So we've incorporated images, artifacts, official documents, texts, and testimonials from the women themselves. This new exhibit seeks to present an extraordinary, hard-fought story of women in the Navy and their journey to serve aboard combatant ships, and it examines their accomplishments as well as the challenges of more than a century of statutory blockade to their full participation. The Memorials team is a group of dedicated professionals passionate about sharing and preserving military women's stories. However, we cannot do it alone. I would like to take a moment to recognize our partners who made the exhibit and this launch possible. Booz Allen Hamilton, the Military Women's Board member and Booz Allen Principal, Information System Technician Senior Chief, retired, Tricia Ward, United States Navy. Judy Dotson, President, Global Defense. Matisse Wright Springer and Jennifer Zayas. Now, as I've been told, unfortunately, Jennifer Brooks from Booz Allen, who oversees the Navy and Marine Corps efforts, is not able to join us today. But Jenny and Tricia recognized the importance of this exhibit during its initial planning phases and immediately pledged their support to bring it to life. From Mantech, Rear Admiral retired Sinclair Harris and Miss Julie Vita. From Moog, Captain Tim Salter, United States Navy, retired. From the Navy League, Admiral retired John Richardson, the 31st Chief of Naval Operations, and Mike Stevens, the 13th Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. And we also have longtime friends of the memorial here, from the Daughters of the American Revolution that have supported us both financially and emotionally, and been a shoulder for me to cry on at times, have supported us for more than 30 years, as well as the members of the memorial's Corporate Leadership Council from Boeing, Tri-West, again, Booz Allen Hamilton, and other corporate members that were unable to be here, but we remain ever thankful for their leadership, their expertise, and their partnership in bringing these stories to life. I really want to thank every one of you that sponsored this today. It is incredibly exciting to look across this room and see such a diverse group here rallying in support of America's Navy women, a cross-section spanning public and private sectors, community and civic organizations, military and civilian, women and men, seasoned veterans and those that are just beginning their military journey. It is through your support that the memorial, for almost 27 years, has been able to lift up the voices and experiences of our military women. We host these compelling exhibitions like A Sea Change to engage diverse audiences through special events and programming. We create educational curriculum and preserve invaluable artifacts, and we tell their personal stories in our unparalleled collections. Through these initiatives, the memorial is able to inspire countless minds of all ages and backgrounds, fostering a better understanding and appreciation for the enduring and evolving contributions of our nation's servicewomen. Women are and always have been essential to our national defense and global security, and we thank all of you for being such an integral part of the memorial's mission. It's an honor to introduce our first speaker. Don't rush, sir. I've got plenty to tell about you. The Honorable John Dalton served as the 70th Secretary of the Navy and was recognized by the National Security Caucus as their prestigious International Security Leadership Award recipient in 1997. That's the year the memorial opened. The award recognized Secretary Dalton's leadership and vision in promoting American sea power and bipartisan maritime strategy. Secretary Dalton is the only service secretary ever to receive this award. Secretary Dalton's distinguished career began as a graduate of the Naval Academy in 1964. He served on 2 submarines, the last diesel-electric submarine the Navy built, the USS Blueback, and one fleet ballistic missile nuclear-powered submarine, the USS John C. Calhoun. He is a decorated military veteran, accomplished author, business executive, nonprofit leader, national security maritime expert, husband to Margaret, father to John Dalton Jr. and Chris, and grandfather of 2. His tenure as Secretary of the Navy from '93 through '98 spanned the initial and crucial years implementing a gender-integrated Navy, which in itself was no small feat, but especially so given the post-Tailhook environment. His leadership continues to inspire our current and future fleet, a North Star, to help guide them as they now lead through complex and emerging challenges. There's no doubt of the lasting impact Secretary Dalton's leadership and allyship to women in the Navy continues to have on today's sea services. To quote the current Secretary of the Navy, Secretary Del Toro, in March of last year, quote, "I could not be prouder to name this future submarine after John Dalton. He served as a proud submariner and Secretary of the Navy. He took strong and principled stands against sexual assault and harassment and oversaw the integration of female sailors onto combat ships. The changes he drove almost 30 years ago are evident in all corners of our Navy, with women serving on, above, and below the sea. Please help me welcome the Honorable John H. Dalton, 70th Secretary of the Navy, to the podium."
Thank you, Phyllis. That was really a superb introduction, and I'm grateful to you very much. And thank you for all coming here. This is a great turnout, and I really appreciate it, each of you, for coming. In 1993, when President Bill Clinton called me to give me the opportunity to serve as Secretary of the Navy, I was very grateful to him and to his administration, but I had a full plate of very difficult changes waiting for me. A cheating scandal had happened at the Naval Academy, which was the biggest cheating scandal ever to occur at any service secretary or service academy. Congress had changed the laws with respect to gays in the military and women in combat, which brought about difficult changes and a great deal of resulting friction. And the Cold War had ended a few years earlier, which led to a military drawdown, which made promotions far less frequent. Soon after I took office, there was a big banner headline in Navy Times which read, "Navy morale at all-time low. Welcome aboard, Secretary Dalton." But the biggest challenge that was waiting for me was known as Tailhook, which is considered the most devastating event in the U.S. Navy since Pearl Harbor. The Tailhook Convention was a convention of naval aviators who had done a crucial job in the first Gulf War, and they were feeling their oats. Women at the convention had been treated extremely shabbily. There was a gauntlet. There were women who were groped, and lewd sexual activity. It was really bad. At the time, many aviators would, when discussing women serving in combat roles, would say, "Never in my Navy." And at Tailhook, there were convention attendees who actually wore T-shirts that said in large letters, "Women are property." At the time I took office, none of the Tailhook attendees who had acted inappropriately had yet been disciplined. That was my job. Also, my job was to certify that every Tailhook attendee who was selected for promotion above lieutenant commander had not acted irresponsibly at the convention, which led to some incredibly difficult decisions. But they were decisions I needed to make so that the Navy and Marine Corps could move forward and guarantee that every member of the United States Navy and Marine Corps, man or woman, was treated with dignity and respect. Throughout my time in office, I made a point to encourage women to fly and serve on surface ships. At that time, women could not take part in the submarine service, but I am so thrilled to say that women now serve in the submarine Navy and have done so for several years or a number of years. Years after I left office, I received a letter from a young woman whom I did not know, who was finishing 9 years of service as a naval aviator. Incidentally, about a year and a half later, she became my daughter-in-law. I would like to read you part of what she said in that letter. Quote, "As difficult as it is for an organization to change a policy or a rule, it is clearly exponentially more difficult to go about changing a culture, especially when the culture defines itself by the very traditions you're trying to change. I can't imagine how professionally and personally difficult and taxing it must have been to make those difficult decisions." that you made. So now, a little more than a decade and a half after Tailhook, and a little less than a decade after I received my commission, I want to say a personal thank you for those decisions. For me, the culture of naval aviation was not just a physically safe place to be. It was a place where I was able to succeed and excel to the very limits of my ambition, intellect, and talent. When I was about 6 years old and told my parents I wanted to fly planes off the big ship like Dad when I grew up, my dad had to tell me the truth. They wouldn't let girls do that. Thank you so much for being a big part of the reason why it turned out I could. End of quotation. Today, women are serving at all levels of Navy and Marine Corps leadership. I am so pleased and proud to say that our current Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, is our CNO, and the superintendent of my alma mater at the U.S. Naval Academy are both women. I am so proud of both of them, and I would like for Lisa to please come. And I am equally proud to know that daughters and granddaughters of everyone in this room can someday, if they choose, sail as far, climb as high, or submerge as deep in the United States Navy as their talents and dreams will take them. Thank you very much. And by the way, when President Bill Clinton said he called me and said, when I was appointed Secretary of the Navy, he said, I've had more people ask me to be Secretary of the Navy than any cabinet post. And I can see why. It's the best job in government. And thank you again very much. I really appreciate your being here.
Sir, thank you for sharing your insights. We look forward to the christening of the USS John Dalton, a Virginia-class Atlantic submarine. What a fitting tribute to your continued leadership and legacy. It's now my pleasure as well to introduce our keynote speaker. when I was reading this earlier, a native of Pittsford, New York, which is just outside of Rochester. I went to Pittsford Mendon High School a couple of years before. Lisa would have been in middle school while I was in high school. Small, small world. Something in the water, ma'am, something in the water. So she's a graduate of the Medill School of Journalism and was commissioned through the Northwestern University Navy ROTC program in 1985. She earned her Surface Warfare Officer qualification on the USS Shenandoah and went on to command, obviously, at all levels, including Naval Reserve Center, Central Point, Oregon, USS Ross, Destroyer Squadron 21, U.S. Naval Forces Korea, Carrier Strike Groups 9 and 15, U.S. 6th Fleet in Italy, and Striking and Support Forces NATO in Portugal. Apart from command, she has served across the Navy and the Joint Force with an emphasis on strategy, international engagement, and interagency collaboration, serving as the Director, Strategy, Plans, and Policy, the J5, and just prior to this role, as the Vice Chief of Navy Operations. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the 33rd Chief of Navy Operations.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Phyllis, thank you very much for your kind words. I never could have imagined that we actually grew up in the same place. It is really an honor to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. Secretary Dalton, thank you so much for your story, for your leadership, for everything that you've done for our Navy. And how about another big round of applause for Secretary Dalton? Mr. Secretary, Admiral Grady, Admiral Richardson, Admiral Howard, Deputy Undersecretary Gebhard, so great to see you in that role. Vice Admiral, not here, Davids, but if you're watching, Admiral Davids, I hope you feel better. Admiral Lower, Ambassador Cabral, MCPON 13, Stevens, interagency colleagues, industry partners, veterans, sailors, families, all of our active, reserve, retired sailors, DoD civilians, friends, family. Hello, Jim and Isabel. Great to see you, my husband and daughter joining today. I am really thrilled to be back here at the Military Women's Memorial to celebrate such a momentous occasion as we mark the 30 years of women serving on combatant ships. I really want to thank you, Phyllis. I want to thank the Military Women's Memorial Board of Directors and the entire team here for putting on this incredible event and curating what I already got a sneak preview on is a truly inspiring and memorable exhibit. Again, Secretary Dalton, it is truly an honor to have you here with us today. Thank you for your leadership, your focus, and really your commitment to ensuring that women have the opportunity to serve at every single level of our Navy. We wouldn't be here without you. I also want to say thank you, although they may have left, to our brass quintet for the wonderful music, because they always add so much to our celebration. And I want to continue in that vein of thanks by saying thank you to all of you for making the time to be here, for taking an interest in telling, sharing, and preserving the stories of women, past and present, who serve our nation. I am so honored and humbled to be part of opening this exhibit, Sea Change, Navy Women on Combatant Ships. Earlier I mentioned that we're 30 years into this very important sea change, made possible by the repeal of the Combat Exclusion Law on November 30th, 1993. Really the landmark piece of legislation that repealed laws that barred women from serving aboard both combatant ships and aircraft and opened the door for someone like me to be standing before you today as the 33rd Chief of Naval Operations. And although the 30th of November is the day we mark, I think it's really important that we pause and reflect on the hard work and dedication of the many women and men trailblazers who spent decades paving the way for this piece of legislation, and for the generations of women leaders who lead our sea services today. When I think of trailblazers, I think of Frida Hardin. She's the first panel in the exhibit that you will see today, and one of just 12,000 women who served our Navy Marine Corps team as nurses, clerks, draftsmen, translators, camouflage designers, and recruiters during World War I. She was a yeomanette, a yeoman F, for female, on active duty from September 1918 to March 1919 at the Norfolk Naval Yard in Virginia, when a formal role for women in the armed forces was really hard to even conceptualize at a time when women could not even vote. When I think about the trailblazers, I think of the more than 100,000 women who served in the Navy as waves, women accepted for volunteer emergency service during World War II, performing a variety of jobs from clerical work and weather forecasting to hospital work, engineering, and even training male pilots to be able to fly their aircraft. A little over a week ago, we celebrated the 82nd anniversary of the WAVES legislation. When I think of trailblazers, I think of Admiral Elmo, or Bud, Zumwalt, our 19th Chief of Naval Operations. Through his Z-gram 116, which was released in 1972, and it was entitled Equal Rights and Opportunities for Women in the Navy, he would initiate and direct the process of more fully integrating women into the Navy so they could, and I quote, contribute their extensive talents and achieve full professional status. His message allowed for the assignment of women on ships one day. It opened all staff corps and restricted line communities to women. It welcomed the acceptance of women midshipmen into the Naval ROTC program, and it improved pathways for women to progress to flag rank. All of these trailblazers, many of whom you'll see in the exhibit later tonight, understood that incorporating the talent and expertise of American women was necessary to ensure our nation's warfighting advantage far into the future. They realized that just like men, women bring the critical skills and innovative ideas that we need to be the world's most formidable fighting force, ready to deter, fight, and win whenever and wherever our nation asks us to do so. I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about myself, my personal path to joining the Navy, because it really was all made possible because of Z-gram 116. I commissioned through the ROTC program at Northwestern University back in 1985 when the combat exclusion law was still in effect. At a time when there were a lot of things that women could not do. At a time when there were only 17 spots a year for women officers to serve on ships, and then only on non-combatant ships. Sadly, I did not get one of those spots, and I became a girl, G-U-R-L, a General Unrestricted Line Officer. I don't make this up, this is actually true. And I headed up the road to Great Lakes, where I could serve in Naval Reserve Readiness Command Region 13 for my very first tour. But after a few months there, my CO at the time, Captain Gary Bear, a surface warfare officer, pulled me aside and told me that I had the makings of a division officer at sea. With his full support and the encouragement from the rest of my command, they pushed me to pull every lever available to me to get the training and the qualifications I needed to prove my desire and my ability to serve at sea. Long story short, after taking a 6-week course at the Boiler Tech Machinist Mate School at Great Lakes, qualifying engineering officer of the watch at the Great Lakes Hot Plant, I put a package together and I found a path forward. I could resign my active commission, I could take a reserve commission, and then I could become a TAR, a Training and Administration of Reserves officer, and I could get one of the 3 spots that were held open for members of the Naval Reserve. So with Captain Bear's support and encouragement, I went for it, just like Frida said, and I was selected, reporting to Surface Warfare Officer School on the day I promoted to Lieutenant JG. I share that story because I think it really highlights how limited the opportunities for women were before the repeal of the combat exclusion law. But after my first division officer tour on board USS Shenandoah, a destroyer tender, I could see those opportunities were starting to increase. And in 1988, a policy change allowed women to be assigned to the Combat Logistics Force. And so I passed up shore duty, and I took a 2nd Division Officer tour on USS Monongahela, an oiler, to take advantage of this new opportunity and get some more experience, just in case. After Monongahela, I headed ashore, and while I was there, I started to hear rumblings that the combat exclusion law might be repealed. I headed to department head school with excitement and dreams of going to a combatant, and I really hoped that my timing would work out. But it didn't. I took my TAO exam, I got the top score in my class, and then I went to my desk to open the little envelope that contained my next assignment. And I was the chief engineer on the USS Kiska, an ammunition ship, not a combatant. The law and policy changes were not complete. So with a very heavy heart and thoughts that my dreams of taking command of a combatant ship were over, I dutifully went through the steam engineer pipeline. But when I was just about to graduate, I was called to the CO's office, and I was told, exciting news, you have new orders. You're going to be the operations officer on the USS Mooseburger, a destroyer, out of Charleston, South Carolina. Congratulations. I could not have been more shocked, more excited, or more happy. Immediately, I got to work learning everything I could about being an operations officer on a Spruance-class destroyer, mostly from my peers, and also how to lay the groundwork for this all-male ship to become co-ed. When I arrived on Moose in 1994, there were 3 women: Radioman Senior Chief Petty Officer Duguay, Lieutenant Junior Grade Pisani, and me. And in addition to our normal jobs, it was also our responsibility to help prepare the crew to embark our first group of women. People were excited, they were scared, and they were nervous. But our CO, Captain Steve Nimitz, set a positive tone. He welcomed our new teammates without any fanfare and set about fully integrating them into the team. And the rest is literally history. I understand that we have some women here from those initial groups, those who had their own personal journey alongside the combat exclusion law, those that were on the Eisenhower, the Mooseburger, the Haler, the Briscoe, others, even aviation squadrons back then. So I would like you all to stand so we can give you a round of applause. Please stand. And it was true that once women were able to serve in combatants, the doors to command of ships, aircraft squadrons, destroyer squadrons, strike groups, fleets, and even being the CNO were opened. All that we needed was time at sea, experience on staffs, and the opportunity to lead. When I tell this story to midshipmen and young petty officers now, they look at me like I'm crazy. They have absolutely no idea that there was a time when women were not on every single ship in the United States Navy. Even below the surface, since 2011, women have been serving on submarines. And today, Commander Amber Cowan and Master Chief Kugler are leading their sailors aboard the USS Kentucky Gold and the USS Louisiana as the first female XO and the first female chief of the boat on a nuclear-powered submarine. Whew. But none of us got here alone, and I am just one small part of this history. Just as our young sailors of today look up and learn from those ahead of them on the journey, I learned from those ahead of me, trailblazers who really cleared the path, 2 of whom are here tonight. The first, Admiral Deb Lower. Deb was one of the first women officers selected for shipboard duty and made history as the first warfare-qualified woman to achieve flag rank in 2003. She was my XO on board Monongahela and remains an exceptional mentor to this day. Deb, can you please stand so we can give you a round of applause? And the second, Admiral Michelle Howard, one of the first women to graduate from the Naval Academy way back in 1982. Michelle was the first black woman to command a U.S. Navy combatant ship, USS Rushmore, in 1999, and was the first woman to command a fleet, a 4-star fleet, and be promoted to the rank of 4-star admiral in 2014. Upon her promotion, Michelle became the highest-ranking woman in the U.S. Armed Forces history and the highest-ranking black woman in naval history. Michelle, please stand so we can recognize you. Without their hard work and example, and that of others like them, like Commander Kathleen McGrath, the first woman to command a U.S. Navy combatant, the USS Jarrett, Master Chief Janice Ayers, the first woman to serve as a Command Master Chief at sea, and I know that Darlene Iskra is here, the first woman to ever command a Navy ship. I know that I would never have been able to be Chief of Naval Operations. And you know, it's very clear to me that our Navy today is very different from the Navy I joined when I was 22 years old, just as it was different from the Navy Frida Hardin joined when she too was just 22 years old. As the Secretary said, today in 2024, all the doors of service have opened, and women not only serve in, but they are leading fleets and strike groups, destroyers, aircraft carriers, aviation squadrons, submarines, air wings, destroyer squadrons, hospitals, supply depots, bases, shipyards, and many, many more things. They have demonstrated their capability, determination, resilience, and warfighting prowess. They are serving on the front lines of freedom, operating at the point of friction with our adversaries, and at the point of friendship with our allies and partners all around the world, performing just like we expect all our sailors to do in complex environments like those we see today in the Middle East. Our ships and aircraft, manned by highly skilled women and men, have shot down hundreds of UAVs, USVs, cruise missiles, and for the first time in history, anti-ship ballistic missiles, saving countless lives, deterring escalation, and upholding the rules-based international order and the values that we all hold so dear. One of those ships, USS Thomas Hudner, was commanded by a woman, Commander Shelby Nicotin. And under her leadership, her team shot down cruise missiles in self-defense and in defense of allies and partners to ensure that our sea lines of communication remained open and to guarantee our nation's security and prosperity. I'm here, and we are all here today, to recognize the contributions of our history-making women leaders, those who blaze the path, those who are on the path, and those who one day be on the path and join our team. Because of them and the reforms made by the Navy, the Department of Defense, Congress, and the White House, our Navy is the most powerful fighting force in the world. And as this exhibit reminds us, we have come a long way. And although there is never really a finish line, I am certainly glad that we are nearing the end of the first, and that women serving at all levels of our military, whether they're active, reserve, or civilian, they're not a novelty. They're not even an interesting milestone anymore, but just an everyday part of our DNA. I have been fortunate to have this front row seat to history, and while there will always be more work to do to unlock the full potential of our teams, I am confident that we have the right people in place to continue the momentum that has brought us thus far. As we're gathered here today to celebrate the launch of this new exhibit and the 30-year anniversary of women serving on combatant ships, I'm proud to say that women sailors no longer ask the question, what can I do? The advancements made by and for Navy women over the past 30 years have reframed that question. Now it's all about, what do I want to do? My story is just one ripple in the many waves of those who came before me, made possible by all the pioneering women and men who believed in equality and diversity, who believed in this sea change. I am grateful to the Military Women's Memorial for everything they do to capture and share the incredible stories of bold and daring women, the ones in this exhibit and beyond, to preserve and celebrate the service of all women in every branch of our military throughout our nation's rich history. So before I finish and I ring that bell to open up the wonderful exhibit, there's one final woman trailblazer that I would like to recognize who unfortunately is not here with us today, but is here in spirit. And that woman is Air Force Brigadier General retired Wilma L. Vaught. She is the driving force behind this. She is the driving force behind this tremendous memorial, for without her efforts, we would surely not be gathered here today. So I'll wrap up this evening with some words from Frida Harden, the World War I yeomanette, during the remarks that she made here at the memorial in 1997. And I think this quote is as relevant today as it was back then. And this is what she said. To those women who are now in the military service, I say, go for it. To those young women who may be thinking about a career in the military service, I say, go for it. You will find a world of opportunity waiting for you. So in the words of Frida, let's go for it and see what the next 30 years bring to our Navy and to our great nation. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, if I was not a soldier for life, I might sign up for the Navy after all of that. Y'all have a seat for just a moment. We are 2 minutes and counting away from being done. So again, thank you, Admiral Franchetti, for these remarks. For Secretary Dalton, thank you so much. What a great way to kick off the unveiling of this exhibition. So to launch the exhibition for the viewing and the reception portion, Admiral Franchetti will ring this historic U.S. Coast Guard bell. It's on long-term loan from the Coast Guard. It is a treasured artifact here at the memorial. Originally, it was aboard the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Spar, which was commissioned in 1944. The ship was named to honor the women of the Coast Guard who served during World War II as Spars, the Semper Paratus, always ready. So similar to the waves, the Spars were trailblazers and our maritime sisters. The Spar ship was decommissioned February 28, 1997. The same year the memorial opened. A lot of great things happened in 97. So like the tradition of ringing an important person aboard the ship, the bell is rung this evening to ring an important exhibit to the Military Women's Memorial. So Admiral Franchetti will please do the honor of ringing this bell, and then the bar is reopened and the exhibit is available. Ma'am.